The first thing my son noticed wasn't the silence. It was his dinosaur sticker. Gone. He let go of my hand, ran down the hallway, and pushed open his bedroom door. Then he froze. The room was completely empty. No bed, no bookshelf, no toy chest, no clothes, no school desk, nothing. My 8-year-old son slowly turned toward me. "Mom, did we come to the wrong house?" Before I could answer, my younger sister, Vanessa, walked out of the next room smiling. "Oh, you're finally back." I stared behind her. Inside was my son's furniture, his blue bed, his desk, even the curtains I'd sewn myself. "What happened?" Vanessa laughed. "I took the room." I looked around. "Where are Liam's things?" She shrugged. "I sold most of them. I got a really good price." For a second, I honestly thought she was joking. Then Mom walked in holding a cup of tea. She smiled casually. "Vanessa's pregnant. She needs the nursery. It's only fair." I looked at my son. His eyes filled with tears. He grabbed my jacket. "Mom, where's my teddy?" Nobody answered. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I simply took my son's hand and quietly walked upstairs, because I already knew this conversation was far from over. Liam sat quietly on the edge of my bed, still wearing the little backpack he'd taken on our weekend trip. He didn't cry right away. He just stared at the floor, trying to understand why his room had disappeared. After a long silence, he looked up at me. "Mom, did I do something wrong?" That question hit harder than anything my mother or sister had said. I knelt in front of him and held both of his hands. "No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong." "Then, why did Aunt Vanessa take my room?" I couldn't answer. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that the adults who were supposed to protect him had decided his memories mattered less than someone else's convenience? A few minutes later, I walked downstairs. My mother and Vanessa were standing inside what used to be Liam's room, happily discussing paint colors and baby furniture. They spoke as if nothing unusual had happened. I kept my voice calm. "Where is Liam's teddy bear?" Vanessa shrugged without even turning around. "I think someone bought it." For a moment, the whole room felt silent. That teddy bear wasn't just another toy. 3 months before my husband, Daniel, died in a car accident, he had won it for Liam at a county fair. Liam slept with it every night. Whenever he missed his dad, he wrapped his little arms around that bear and whispered goodnight. It wasn't fabric and stuffing. It was the last gift his father had ever given him. "You sold it?" I asked quietly. Vanessa finally looked at me. I didn't know it was important. Before I could respond, Mom sighed impatiently. "He's only 8. Children forget these things." I looked straight at her. No children remember exactly who protected them. Neither of them said another word. That night, after Liam finally fell asleep beside me, I made a promise. I would get back everything I could. And for everything I couldn't, someone would answer for it. The next morning, I waited until everyone had left the house. Mom had gone shopping. Vanessa was meeting friends for lunch. The silence gave me exactly what I needed. I searched every trash bag, every cardboard box, and every receipt lying around the kitchen. Nearly 20 minutes passed before I found a crumpled receipt buried under old newspapers. It was from a neighborhood consignment store. Beds, books, clothes, toys, a bicycle, everything had been sold together. The total came to just under $800. $800. That was all my son's childhood had been worth to my sister. I slipped the receipt into my purse and drove straight to the store. The owner, Mr. Harris, looked uncomfortable the moment I introduced myself. "You must be Liam's mother." I nodded. "I've been hoping someone would come." He invited me into his office and pulled up security footage from 2 days earlier. On the screen, I watched Vanessa smiling while employees unloaded Liam's belongings from her SUV. Then came the moment that made my stomach turn. She placed Liam's teddy bear on the counter. Mr. Harris paused the video. I asked if the child's mother knew these things were being sold. "What did she say?" He handed me the paperwork. Next to Vanessa's signature were the words, "Legal guardian." She had lied, not only to the store but in writing. Mr. Harris sighed. I didn't believe her completely, so I kept a few sentimental items in storage. Something didn't feel right. My heart began to race. "What did you keep?" He smiled gently. "Come with me." Inside the storage room sat 3 small boxes. The first held Liam's school drawings. The second contained photo albums and handmade Father's Day cards. The third held the teddy bear. The moment I picked it up, tears filled my eyes. When I brought it home that afternoon, Liam saw it before I even spoke. He ran across the room and hugged it so tightly that I thought he might never let go. "I thought Daddy's bear was gone forever," he whispered. That sentence erased any doubt I still had. This wasn't just a cruel family argument anymore. Someone had stolen and sold a grieving child's memories. The following morning, I walked into the local police station carrying the receipt, the security footage Mr. Harris had copied for me, and every document I had collected. The officer watched the video from beginning to end without interrupting. When it finished, he leaned back in his chair. So your sister claimed she was the child's legal guardian? Yes, and she had no legal authority to sell any of these items. None, he nodded slowly. That changes everything. He explained that falsely claiming guardianship on official paperwork could amount to fraud, and selling property without the owner's permission could also lead to criminal charges. Then he asked me one simple question. Would you like to file a formal report? I thought about Liam sleeping peacefully with his teddy bear again. Then I answered. Yes. Less than 3 hours later, 2 police officers knocked on my mother's front door. Vanessa opened it with a smile. But the moment she saw the uniforms, her smile disappeared. She finally realized this wasn't going to end with another family argument. It had become something much bigger. The police officers stayed for almost an hour. They spoke to Vanessa first, then my mother. Finally, they asked to see me. Vanessa insisted it had all been a misunderstanding. I live here too. I thought I had the right. The officer calmly replied, living in a house doesn't give you ownership of someone else's property. She had no answer. Before leaving, the officers explained that the investigation would continue and that someone from the department would contact me within a few days. That evening, the house felt unusually quiet. For the first time since we returned from our trip, nobody argued. Mom knocked softly on my bedroom door. Can we talk? I nodded. She sat across from me, avoiding my eyes. Then, after several long seconds, she whispered something I never expected to hear. This house isn't only mine. I frowned. What do you mean? When your father passed away, he changed his will. He left half of this house to you and half to me. I stared at her. You've known that all these years? She nodded. I never told you. Why? Tears filled her eyes. Because I was afraid. If you knew you might leave? I almost laughed. I was already planning to. She lowered her head. At that moment, I understood something painful. She hadn't hidden the truth to protect me. She had hidden it to keep control. The next morning, I visited the lawyer who had handled my father's estate. He opened the original will. Every page was signed. Every document was valid. There it was in black and white. I legally owned half the house. Vanessa owned nothing. She had taken my son's room inside a house that wasn't even hers, and now she would have to answer for all of it. 3 days later, Vanessa came to my room carrying a shopping bag. She looked exhausted. Her confidence had disappeared. Without saying a word, she placed the bag on my bed. Inside were brand new toys, new clothes, a new blanket. I'll replace everything, she whispered. I've already started buying things. I looked inside the bag, then gently pushed it back toward her. Liam never asked for new things. She swallowed hard. I know. He wanted his own things. The things his dad gave him. Tears rolled down her face. I didn't think. No, I replied quietly. You didn't. For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't blame Mom. She didn't blame pregnancy. She simply cried. Then she pulled a folded envelope from her purse. I paid the consignment store for everything they still had. I brought back what I could. Later that evening, I opened the boxes, Liam's favorite books, his baseball glove, his toy train, his framed kindergarten photo. Most of it had been recovered, but some things were gone forever, and memories don't come with receipts. That night, Liam hugged me. Mom, are we moving? I smiled softly. Yes, very soon. He looked around the room. Can we have a house where nobody touches my things? I kissed his forehead. That's exactly where we're going. But before we could leave, someone unexpected arrived at the front door. The doorbell rang just after breakfast. Mom opened the door. The color drained from her face. Standing outside was Mr. Collins, my father's oldest friend. He had also been the executor of Dad's will. I heard what happened, he said calmly. Mom stepped aside without speaking. He walked straight into the living room and looked around. Then his eyes stopped on Liam. The little boy was sitting quietly on the couch, holding the teddy bear his father had won for him years ago. Mr. Collins smiled sadly. Your dad would be heartbroken if he saw this. Mom burst into tears. I never wanted it to go this far. Mr. Collins turned toward her. No, you just never expected anyone to stop you. The room fell silent. Then he looked at me. Your father left me something else. He handed me a sealed envelope. I was supposed to give you this. If there ever came a day when you questioned whether this house was truly your home, my hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter from Dad. The first line made my eyes fill with tears. If you're reading this, someone has forgotten what family is supposed to mean. I slowly looked up. Every person in the room, including my mother, was waiting for me to continue reading. My hands trembled as I unfolded the letter. The paper had yellowed with time, but I recognized my father's handwriting immediately. My dear Emily, if this letter has reached you, then something has happened that I prayed never would. I had to stop for a moment. Dad continued. When I updated my will, I left half of this house to you because I wanted you and Liam to always have a safe place to call home. Nobody, not even family, should ever make you feel like a guest in your own home. Tears rolled down my face. He had written that letter years before Liam was even born. Yet somehow it felt as though he knew exactly what would happen. The last paragraph was addressed to my mother. Margaret, if you're reading this beside our daughter, remember the promise we made. We would never choose one child over another. Mom covered her mouth. She couldn't look at me. She couldn't even look at Dad's letter. For years, she had convinced herself she was helping Vanessa. Now she was forced to face the truth. She had betrayed both her husband and her grandson. Mr. Collins quietly folded the letter. Your father trusted all of us. We failed him. Nobody argued, because nobody could. The room remained silent until my lawyer broke it. I think it's time we discuss the future of this house. A month later, the house was sold. Not because I wanted revenge, because there was no longer any way for us to live there together. After the sale, Mom received her share. I received mine. Vanessa quietly moved into a small apartment with her husband. She never asked for Liam's room again. Before we left for the last time, Mom walked into the empty bedroom. She stood there for several minutes. Then she whispered, "I'm so sorry." I believed she meant it, but some apologies arrive after they've already changed everything. A week later, Liam and I unlocked the front door of our new house. It wasn't the biggest house on the street. It didn't have a huge backyard, but every room felt peaceful. The first thing Liam did was run upstairs. He opened the bedroom door, then turned to me with the biggest smile I'd seen in months. "Mom, this room is really mine?" I smiled, every inch of it. He carefully placed his teddy bear on the pillow, then looked around the room. "No one's going to sell my things." I wrapped my arms around him. "Never." That night, as I tucked him into bed, he whispered something I'll never forget. "I think Grandpa helped us find this house." I looked at the framed photo of Dad on the dresser. Maybe he had. A few days later, I received one final letter from Vanessa. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't make excuses. She simply wrote, "Every time I see an empty room, I remember Liam standing in that hallway, holding your jacket and asking where his teddy bear was. I'll carry that memory for the rest of my life." I folded the letter and placed it inside Dad's envelope. Not because I wanted to remember the pain, but because I wanted to remember the lesson. A home isn't measured by its walls. It's measured by the people who make a child feel safe inside them. And the greatest revenge wasn't watching my sister lose the nursery she wanted. It was watching my son fall asleep every night, knowing that no one would ever take his room, or his memories, away again.